Hello, this is Kevin Olson from TextLearn.com and welcome to Lesson 7.1 of the Intro to Java series. In this section, we'll be discussing methods. So what is a method? Well, a method is a set of code referred to by name which is used to perform some sort of specialized function. So far we've been creating all of our code for our programs within the main method of a single class file within our Java project. We're going to expand on that in this section. With object-oriented programming, we're going to look at creating additional classes within our package and creating additional methods within our class files. So methods take input in the form of parameters and they can return output with a return statement. So we can essentially consider methods to be like functions that do things, is something you can think of them as. Let's take a look at the main method. The main method consists of the keyword public, keyword static, void, and then we call it, the name of the method is main, and then we have string arg, so a string array of arguments. So just an examination of the first keyword there, public, that is an access modifier. And access modifiers denote what other things can access this method in this case. Now we can apply access modifiers not only to methods, but to classes and to variables as well. So when it's public, that indicates that anything can access this method. When it's private, that means only methods within this class can access it. And when it's protected, that means that only things that are in the same package can access that method. So that gives you kind of security control over what can access your program's elements. The static keyword just indicates that the method does not need to be initialized within the context of an object, so we don't have to create an object in order to use this main method. We can just go ahead and use it. So that's going to be important, and we'll get into that in the next topic when we talk about creating classes. That kind of goes hand in hand with that. And then the void keyword means that the method does not return anything, so it doesn't return a value. It doesn't send anything out. Stuff comes in, but it doesn't go out. And then the args are just, that's an array list, or not an array, it's a string array of arguments that are passed on command line. And we're not going to really get into that too much yet, but let's take a look at Eclipse, and I'm going to start some examples here of creating our own methods. So let's create a new project, 7.1, and I will add a new class to that, and we'll just call it class testing. And we'll give that a main method. So here we have our testing class with our main method. And all we're going to do is create a new method called print hello, and it's just going to print out the words hello world. So in order to create a new method, well, first we have our main method up here, so we have to put our next method within our same class. So we're going to put it right down here. And we can just do public, static, void, and then we give the method an identifier or a name. So print hello is going to be the name of this method. And then we have our parentheses, and this is where we would put our arguments if we had any. This method does not need to have any arguments because there's nothing for it to do. All it's going to do is print out the message hello world. And we can just put system out print line hello world. And now we can call, that's what we say when we are, call that method when we're referring to a method when we want to use it. So within the main method, we can call that method by just typing print hello, two parentheses, and semicolon. So Java's going to open up the main method of our program. It's going to see print hello. It's going to hop down to this print hello method, and it's going to execute the code within the print hello method. So when we run that, it says hello world. So that is printing hello world with our print hello method. We can add additional methods if we wanted to. So we could do public, static, void, print goodbye. System out print line goodbye. And then we could have print hello, print goodbye. And it'll call both of those methods. So it'll do hello first and then goodbye. So it says hello world, goodbye. And we can reuse these methods as many times as we want to. So I could say print hello, print goodbye, print hello, print goodbye. And it'll just keep doing it, so then it'll end up doing it 3 times each. And it'll say, hello world, goodbye, hello world, goodbye, hello world, goodbye. So that is how we can use methods and have them do certain tasks in short. Now let's discuss parameters. So let me delete that code and we'll delete those methods there. So parameters allow us to take input. So we're gonna create a new method and it's just gonna be called print message. So public static void print message, and we are going to take a string as a parameter and we're gonna call it string message MSG. And all we're gonna do is print out that string. So that is our parameter here, and we'll do system out print line, and we're printing out that message. So now when we want to use the print message method in our main class, or our main method, we can just do print message, and we can send that a string. So we could send it a message like, hello, my name is Kevin, period, semicolon. So now when we run this, it will call our print message function, and this is now an argument. When you are passing it, it's known as an argument, and when you're receiving it and using it in the method itself, it's known as a parameter. So right here it's a parameter, right here it is an argument for that method. So we're passing it this argument, hello, my name is Kevin, and then the print message method takes that parameter once it gets received, and it says, okay, that's the message, and then it prints out that message there. So we run that, and we can see that it said, hello, my name is Kevin. Then we get our print message, bye. And now it says, hello, my name is Kevin, bye. So you can see that this is kind of like with that idea of code generalization. We want to be able to create methods that are reusable. So if we're doing a task over and over again, different ways, we can use methods to kind of make it more generic. So if we're doing one task and we have to do it for, say, like 10 different variables, we would want to create a method that could do that task for us using generic variables in here, and then we perform the operation and return a value. So that is parameters. Let me see, what is next? Yes, okay. So the next example I'd like to do is to pass a method an array list. So we're going to create a method which calculates and prints out the average of an array list. So let's create an array list of integers. So array list of type integer, my list is going to be equal to a new array list of type integer. And I have to import that array list class into our project. And then we'll do mylist.add, and we'll add some random integers to that. So I'll add 10, mylist.add, oops, not add all, that add, and we'll add 20. And mylist.add, let's say we will add the number 33 now. So what I want to do is create a method that will calculate the average of an array list. So we will have a new method here, and this method will be called, we'll do public static void, and this will be print array list average, and this will print out the average of an array list. So for the parameter here, we will put array list of type integer, and we'll give that a name, a list. So now we can calculate the average. So we're going to total up all the elements in that list. So total equal int. Actually, we'll do double. Let's do double. Total equals 0. And then we can do for int I equals 0. I is less than a list dot size. I increments by 1. So we iterate through each element in that list. And then we do total plus equals. We'll cast it to a double. And we will do a list dot get index there. So we're taking those integers, we're turning them into doubles, and we're adding those to our total double. So now we will calculate the average. So double average is going to be equal to the total divided by the number of elements in that list by ArrayList.size. And then we can do system out println. The average is plus average. So this method takes an array list, adds them all up, and calculates the average. So to use that, we can go ahead back to our main method, and we will call our print array list average method, and we will pass that my list as an argument, and let's give that a whirl. The average is 21.0, so let's test that out. You should always test your methods to make sure they work. Get a calculator, and we'll see if that is true, which I believe it is. 10 plus 20 plus 33, divide that by 3, and yes, the result is 21. So the average of those three values is 21. Now if we wanted to create a second array list of type integer, another list equals new array list of type integer, and then we want to add some values to that as well. So another list dot add the value 23, another list dot add the value, let's say 42 or 42, okay, and another list dot add, and this time we'll add 66 to that guy. So let's go ahead and we'll copy that, paste that there, copy that, paste that there. And now we're going to print the average of my list, and then we'll print out the average of another list. The average is 21.0. The average is 43 2/3. And that looks right to me. So we can see now, instead of having to manually calculate the average for each array list, we can just make a method that does that for us, and then it will calculate the average for us. So we don't have to manually go in and add them all up. Imagine if you had to do, say, 10 of these. Instead of having to do this part over and over and over again, now we only have to do it once, and we use our method to do it for us. So that is how we can kind of use parameters in array, or use parameters with methods. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the return statement. So the return statement allows us to return values. And to use these, all we have to do, let's create a new method. Let's say, for example, we want to return an integer. So public int number 5. And then we can just have this return. This is the return statement, return, return 5. So all this method does here, it's a public method, it's an integer, and it returns the number 5. So if we wanted to say system.out.println, we could then call that method number 5, semicolon, and all it's going to do is return the number 5. And I have to make that static. Right, can't forget that. Okay, thank you Eclipse for helping me out. Now, public static int number 5 returns 5. We run this, and it prints out the number 5. So this just got replaced with whatever integer was returned by this return statement. If we change that to 55, it's going to return an integer with the value of 55. So we can do useful things with this. We can use it to return any type of data type that we want. We can make it a double, string, whatever. So let's say we want to take two values and find the product. So let's do double A equals 10, double B equals 20. And now we'll have public static double get product. And the parameters in this case will be double. We can even use double A and double B again if we want to. And that's because when we declare variables within the main method, the scope of those variables is limited to just this method here. That means once we go down to here and create a new double A as a parameter, it's not going to be using that same double A that's in here. It's an entirely different variable being referenced now when we create it down here. But just so we don't confuse, we would do double X, double Y. And then we go ahead and we return X times Y. and that will return a value of x multiplied by y. So if I wanted to say system.out.println, the product of a and b is plus get product a comma b. And we do need those commas in there to separate the different arguments and parameters. We run that. The product of a and b is 200, so that looks right to me. 20 times 10 is definitely 200 last time I checked. So that is how we can create a getProduct method, which will return the value of x and y. And of course, we could have much more complicated computations within these methods, which you will definitely start running into as we progress in this series. But just for an example purpose, that's pretty simple. Let me see what other types of things I wanted to discuss real quick. Right, okay. So as far as return statement goes, we can't have multiple return statements. So let's say we put return x in there. Eclipse is already gonna underline that and say that that is unreachable code, because once we return that first one, we can't return again. And then we'll get an error that says, of course, exception and thread main unreachable code. So that'll actually make it so your program won't work if you have multiple return statements in there. But what if, for example, we wanted to use an if statement to return different values in different scenarios? We could actually have multiple return statements if we have an if in there. So let's see here. Let's say let's do int a equals 333, and we'll create a new method down here. Let's just do public static, and we'll do int, and it will take an integer a as a parameter. Okay, so we have, I need to give this a name, do something. So this method called do something is going to return an integer value. And now let's say if the int is greater than 100, we will multiply by 2. So if a is greater than 100, then we return a times 2. Else, return a divided by 2. So if it's less than 100 or equal to 100, it will return a divided by 2. Now in this case, because it's impossible for both of these scenarios to occur with the same integer, we are allowed to have two return statements in there because they occur under different situations. So when we go to use our do something, system.out.println, and we'll just println do something, pass a as an argument. Now we run this, and it prints out the devil's number, 666. Now if we were to make it 50 and we run it, we can see it did the other operation where it divided by 2 instead of multiplying by 2, and we got 25 because 50 is less than 100. So that is how we can use multiple return statements if there are different conditions occurring within the context of our method. Now, as far as scope goes, I did tell you that integer a here is not the same as integer a here, because this integer a is exclusive to this method and this integer a is exclusive to this method. Now what if we want to share variables between methods? We can do that as well, but if we want to do that, instead of putting the variables within the methods, we can put the variables as class in the class. So class level variables here. We could have public integer a number equals 5. And that means that a number, because it's outside of the method, it's going to be available to all the methods within this class. And because it's public, it'll actually be available also to other classes. And let's do public static void, and this will be do something again, and we won't take any parameters there this time. And this is do something method. We can do a number plus equals 5. So whenever we call do something, it's going to increment the value of a number by 5, and I have to make that static as well. Okay, So now we can do something in the main method, do something in the main method, and system.out.println a number. And you'll see there's no red underlines or anything that occur here because the variable was properly declared. When I run that, it prints out the number 15 because it started off at 5. It called do something, it added 5 to a number, do something again, added another 5 to a number, and then we printed out the value of a number, which was now 15 because we added 5 and 5 to it. So that is a class level variable. Now if we change this over here and we just said int a number equals 5, and we run this, you'll see that a now has an underlined a number in it because we don't have the local variable a number available to us. So if I try to run that, it'll give me an error saying that the a number can't be resolved to a variable. So that just means that we never declared this variable within the scope of this method. So it comes across this, it says a number, what is that? I don't even know what that is, and the program just dies on us. Okay, I believe that's all I wanted to discuss with that. So let's take a look at a review exercise. Review exercise 7.1. Recall in lesson 4.4 when we worked with the random object to generate random numbers. Using this knowledge, create a method random int, and that takes integer min and integer max as parameters. And this will return a random integer between the minimum and maximum values given as the parameters. So I have a template down here for the little review assignment. In the main method, all it does is it loops through 10 times and it prints out a random number with the random int method between 100 and 200. So your job here is to modify this method here so it returns a random integer between the minimum and the maximum. And if you go back to lesson 4.4 in the series, you can reread how to use the random object to generate numbers between certain values. So try to make that method. All you'll do is calculate the random number and use the return statement to return that random number. That's all you should have to do, and you don't have to modify any of the other code in here. If you have any questions, feel free to post a comment. Thanks for watching.